week of digital learning. It's definitely been chaotic and unique times, but I hope that you're making the best of it. I've certainly learned way more about digital learning, and I really, really do miss my students and all the students at Caliche. So I have a little book today. The book is titled Extra Yarn. It is a Caldecott Honor book by Mac Barnett, illustrated by John Klassen. Our publisher for this book is Balzar & Bray, an imprint of HarperCollins Publishers. If you would like to take an AR test on this, it is 0.5 points and the number is 148457. I hope you enjoy. Extra Yarn by Mac Barnett, illustrated by John Klassen. For Stephen Malk and for Mom. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town, wherever you looked was either the white of snow or the black of soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. So she went home and knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. Are you guys learning something new in this time? So she knit a sweater for Mars too, but there was still extra yarn. And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. It's a mean-looking Nate. But it turned out he was. And even after she made a sweater for Nate and his dog and for herself and for Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet," shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone. Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Then I'll knit one for everyone," Annabelle said, "so they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." What a mean teacher. But it turned out she could. And she did. Even for Mr. Norman. And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and for Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Lewis. She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, who would stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks." So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and for the other animals too. Soon people thought. Soon Annabelle would run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. A bird and a house and a mailbox. So Annabelle even made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. Such awesome illustrations using the sweater knit. Things began to change in that little town. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from around the world to steal the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy that miraculous box of yarn. I am willing to offer you $1,000,000. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The archduke's mustache twitched. $2,000,000, he said. Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10,000,000, shouted the archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. So that night, the archduke hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house, and they stole the box and took it to the archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. All the way back to his castle. The archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair, and then took out the box, and he lifted the lid and looked inside. Uh-oh. His mustache quivered, it shivered, it trembled. The archduke hurled the box out the window and shouted, "Little girl, I will curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." But there goes the box of yarn. And Annabelle retrieving it. And it turned out she was. And the end of our story has a cat, a dog, and another dog, all sitting in a tree with their yarn. I hope you all enjoyed that book. Don't forget to take your AR test on it and let us know at our Caliche Schools page if you have any questions. Remember, when you're taking your AR test, use the specific link on the Caliche webpage. Otherwise, it won't work for you. Have a good night, guys.